Hey guys, happy Thursday. I had to think about what day it is. So, hello. I hope you all have had an amazing Thursday. I pray that you didn't work too hard. We're on Friday Eve. So anyhow, I am super excited. Hopefully you guys saw the live tonight. We're going to be doing our live. Carlton and I, we're going to be talking about how do men prepare for a wife, darling. And I told Carlton already, hey, Nikki, hey, Kayla, y'all please share my live. I told Carlton earlier when we talked, I was like, you do realize you're going to be on the hot seat tonight because I have all kinds of questions. So ladies, look, we're going to be hearing from a man of God. Okay, so drop your questions, be a part of the conversation. I'm curious to know because I don't really know how. So how they playing. So I have questions. I have questions and concerns. So hey Raymond. So look, y'all please share the live. I know it's going to bless somebody tonight. I'm super excited. Carlton always comes with a word. Last week, he was amazing. And so we had over almost 1,000 or over 1,000 views last week. So thank y'all so much for being a part of our conversation. Thank y'all for sharing. Thank you all for supporting me. Y'all have supported me it's been 2 years. It didn't even feel like it, but for these past 2 years, and I'm so grateful, so thankful. Hey, Ebony, that you guys have just been so supportive over this time, watching me grow. I'm still growing. I'm still dusting myself off every other day. So, I'm just so appreciative of you guys and just how much you all have loved on me and have just been enjoying these topics and conversations. Y'all support everything that I do, and I'm super grateful. I am even more excited to let you know that the third book is going to be going on pre-order very soon. So Vulnerability, The Art of Letting Go. It has been a 2-year writing spree for me, and I am super excited because it's really about that journey of how to tear down those walls after going through, and this is going to be a great read for men and women. I do believe that men and women will both be able to really gain something from this writing because it's so selfless. It's extremely vulnerable, hence the title. It's extremely vulnerable and really, really speaks to, where I have been, the steps that I had to take, what things couldn't go with me in certain seasons, what things couldn't go with me in certain moments. And so, hey, Chastity. So I am so excited that it's going to be pre-ordering soon. So I'll be dropping the date really soon. We'll be talking about vulnerability. So just get ready because I've literally been writing that book for 2 years, So, So anyhow, without further ado, hey, Demetrius Payne, y'all please share my live. Wear us out tonight. So I am super excited. Conversation. Hey, Carlton. Can you hear me?
Lauren,
yep, I can hear you. Sound great.
what's going on? How are you?
Doing great. I was just sharing with everybody that my third book is ready for pre-order. So I'm going to be dropping.
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm going to be dropping it's Vulnerability, The Art of Letting Go is the title. So it's my 2-year journey to learning how to get very vulnerable and very transparent and open. And so I definitely think it's something, it's definitely a writing that I know men and women will be able to really see themselves in. whether they are in a current relationship or about to be in a relationship. So, hey, Marlon, my cousin's on here, my family. So, my third
Okay.
book will be coming out really, really soon. Well, the pre-order will be dropping really soon. It'll actually come out. Vulnerability will come out in January, first quarter of 2021. So, super excited. So, hey, BJ Gibson. So please share our live tonight because I'm putting Carlton on the hot seat. So, man, y'all just come on in the room. Hey, just come on in the room because I can already tell you it's going to be good. I know he got something because I told him earlier, I was like, oh, you going to be in a hot seat today because I have questions. And I know other people got questions. And,
Right.
some men going to have some comments. And we just want to all grow. That's what our platform is for. When Carlton and I connected, it was about purpose and about just helping others grow as ourselves, because we learn something every time he and I talk. And there's such a great takeaway. And I love our very natural chemistry. So it's never scripted. Like, I literally call him 20 minutes before. I'm like, you ready? I'm like, you ready? Because it's time. So that's basically how it flows. And so what you get is extremely vulnerable. It's extremely transparent. Hey, Ashton. So without further ado, our topic tonight is, how do men prepare to be husbands? Like, how do y'all prepare to be a wife? So Carlton, you go ahead and answer at least the first question. What does it look like? Because before you start, I was blown away when Sierra and her husband, Russell Wilson, they talk about their journey of how, she talks about her praying, that God would send her this man. And, we focus so much as, society on Sierra, girl, sis. What was that prayer, sis? Because we need the prayer. Drop the link, we'll pay for the prayer, okay? We just want to know what you said to God that got you that man. And so, we put a lot of emphasis on, hey, Relette, please share our live. So we put a lot of emphasis on what Sierra prayed, right? And a couple weeks back, or probably like a month now, I saw that Russell Wilson came out and said, a lot of people asked, what did my wife say? But no one asked, what was I praying for? And I was like, now, that's a good question, because we never did. We all was about Sierra.
Absolutely, yeah.
The prayers of the righteous availeth much, and Sierra clearly must have had the prayers of the righteous. But none of us start to think about, well, what was Russell doing? Like, what was his prayer? And he said he prayed for that woman. The woman that he got was the woman that he prayed for. So go ahead and tell us, do men in their preparation season, do they pray for a certain type of woman, or do they just see one that's fine and they holler at her?
No, I mean, I want to just kind of touch on the first part that you mentioned. We have to be careful, right, with when it comes to the things of the culture where it mentions, hey, Sierra said this prayer and Russell said this prayer, but we have to realize that we have to develop our own relationship with God. So what Russell Wilson prayed might be different than what I'm praying. Not to say that what I'm praying is right and his is wrong or vice versa. So my prayer might be a little bit different, right? Because we look at myself and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a professional athlete. He needs a wife that understands the calling on his life as a professional athlete. For me, I'm praying for a woman that understands my calling as a minister, a pastor, a life coach, and the different things that I do. You may be praying for a man to understand your entrepreneur journeys and you as an author and things along those lines. So all of our prayers are going to be different, right? So I know culture hypes it up. What did Sierra pray? Because you can pray what Sierra prayed, but it might not work for you. Just like if I pray for what Russell prayed, it might not work for me. So the question is do us as men, do we pray for certain women or pray for a wife? For me, I feel men do, and boys are more along the line of, like you said, seeing somebody fine and, I'm going to shoot my shot, right? I feel as Christian men, and men that are led by
Mm-hmm.
God, we are praying for a certain type of woman. Or I know for me, I know that I'm praying for a woman that can genuinely support me and that can help me and that can contribute to my calling. Like I mentioned last week, you should be contributing more to my calling more than
Yeah.
celebrating it. I don't want somebody to, jump on the bandwagon when I'm in the NBA championship. I need somebody that's with me in training camp. I need somebody that's with me in
Yeah.
the summer. And like we've been
Yeah.
talking about, we need somebody that's been in that off season. So I need someone who's going to pour into me and also understand my calling. So I feel for most men, if you are not praying, you should be
Mm-hmm.
praying for a certain type of woman that can bring the best out of you and help you reach certain levels, because a good woman or a great woman is going to encourage and pull something out of her man that he wasn't able to do on him, do by himself.
Yeah.
And I also feel that it works the other way around. So I feel as men, we do pray. We do pray for, we have specific, we may have specific characteristics. We got to be mindful and careful that we're not praying for tangible things.
Mm.
So even when I mentioned my prayer,
Yeah.
right, none of it was, I need a girl that's light skinned. I need a girl that's thick. I need a girl that has long hair. I want her to be black, white. I
Correct.
want her to be Puerto Rican.
Correct.
Yeah, because again, for me, my prayer is I need someone who is going to help me become the best version of myself and understand my calling. And that woman could be any race, any height, long hair, short hair, thick, skinny. Those things to me are irrelevant, right? Every man has a preference or, certain type of woman that they like. But for me, as I've gotten older, I remember I was talking to my mentor in ministry way when I was in the minister and training program. He was like, what does your dream or your ideal girl look like? And I told him, I said, my ideal woman at 26 looks a lot different now that I'm in my 30s.
Yeah.
I know 26, it was that boy mentality of, man, I just want a nice looking girl with long hair. And as long as she's educated and got a good job, I'm cool. But now,
Correct.
as I'm in my
Correct.
30s, to me, I'd rather have soul food than eye
Come
candy.
on.
So I need somebody that's going to actually pour and contribute to my soul. So that long hair or that image of a beautiful woman, I didn't scrap the whole thing. But for the most part, I'm praying for someone who can understand the calling on my life and can contribute to it. So to answer your question, I feel men do pray. And for any man out there that is not intentional in your prayers, if you're not intentional about what you're praying for as far as a wife, you'll accidentally delay meeting or being led to that woman because you're not intentional in your prayers about what you're praying for or what you are seeking in a spouse. So to answer that question, I feel we do pray. And then if there are men out there that are not, tonight is the perfect time to start.
So answer me this. So should a man know what his purpose is before he starts, before he starts, excuse me, before he necessarily starts praying for a wife? Like, what does that process look like before you decide, okay, God, I'm ready to start asking you for a wife?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel at a minimum you should have an idea,
Mm-hmm.
because that might be one of those things that a woman does pull out of a
Yeah.
man. You know what I mean? Or a woman might complete that purpose, or that woman might be able to, again, enrich her man, as it mentions in Proverbs 31, to where maybe she is giving him new ideas or giving him a little bit of a push. I'm not talking about a full push. I'm not talking about someone who is not motivated and you got to get him up off the couch. I'm not talking about that. You need to be self-motivated before you are dating anybody.
Right.
So I feel like a man should ideally know what their purpose is, but at the bare minimum, they should have an idea of, hey, this is what I feel God is calling me to do. At least I have a feeling or a feel of what God is calling me to do. You know what I mean? That type of thing. So that's how I would answer that question. I feel like from a purpose perspective, ideally you should. That is a part of, I've been mentioning over the last couple of weeks about this liminal space. And within that liminal space between where you are and where God plans to transition you to, you should be taking that time to discover what my purpose is. And when people often ask me, well, I don't know what my purpose is, I always follow up and ask them, well, what do you feel your gifts are? Like, what do you feel God has gifted you with? Because what you feel God has gifted you with most likely are connected and aligned with your purpose. So if you feel like, hey, I'm a good people person, then your purpose, in my opinion, is most likely connected to helping people. So it's just a matter of, okay, well, how do you want to help people? Do you want to help them in a medical profession? Do you want to help them as a life coach? Do you want to help them from writing books? Do you want to help them, you know, as far as being a dentist? I mean, things along those lines. So that's a part of that liminal space, that space in between. You know, I was just talking with a client before I jumped on this. I said that time that you're single, you're not going to get that time.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not going to get that single time back. So enjoy being single. I'm not saying go out and say I'm celebrating being single and single is where it is. No, use that single time to find out what your purpose are, to discover what God has gifted you with, to determine what gifts that you need to develop and things along those lines. And I'll kind of go into some other things as well. But that's why we got to appreciate that single space. Stop rushing into relationship to relationship, because what happens is you're not, you know, oh, there's so many directions that I can go with it, but you could be missing something. You could be missing something just because you're rushing from relationship to relationship to relationship. You're missing something, whether you're not healing something that's broken, you're not correcting something that's broken, you're not developing something that God placed within you, you're missing something. And I cannot help to ignore why I feel this COVID season has gone the way it's gone, because we're rushing back into normalcy. When God is like, I need you to be still, and I need you to take a summer off to develop something that I put inside of you. I need you to take, can you take one summer off? Can you not go to Vegas one summer? Can you not go to Miami one summer? Can you not be on somebody's beach for one summer to develop something that I placed inside of you? And that's where we miss it. Everybody wants vacations and I want to be on the beach, you know, me and somebody's son. The devil is a liar. Again, we got to stop feeding into the culture. Everybody wants to be me and somebody's son. Everybody, right? Yeah, everybody wants to be me and somebody's son without doing the work.
Come on, but without the son, the son of God.
The son,
we don't want the son of God.
Come on, there you go. And that's where I was going with it, right? We want to be me and somebody's son without working with the Son, which is our Savior, which is Jesus Christ. Can we take one summer off to know, like, I am going to be me and somebody's son? That is, I am going to be a real life me. But this summer in 2020, I got to put in the work on myself. There's something that God wants me to develop in this season, that if I continue to rush my season, then it's going to delay my me and somebody's son season. Why? Because I'm not doing with the initial son. We got to put in the work. Can we take one summer off? Can we take one summer? One summer. It's not like we've had plenty of summers. We had 2019, 2018, 2017, 16, 15, 14. We can go on and on and on. Can we take 2020 off? Because people at the beginning of the year were talking about 2020 vision. Well, God is opening your eyes to something that you need to work on. But you rather be on the beach.
What's up?
2020 with somebody's son, right? You land up with somebody's son, but you ain't developing something that he put inside of you. The devil is a liar. And then you wonder why you're in an entanglement.
Not an entanglement. And you know, that's so true. And you know what I love about this topic tonight, and that I hope all of our viewers are getting. Hey y'all, I see some new faces. Hey, please share our live. Hey Maya. Please share our live. But, you know, y'all drop your questions. Look, Carlson said he was ready for the hot seat. This man said he can't prepare. God comes prepared for what he said he won't, okay? So he's prepared for all of our questions, and so am I. So definitely drop them. But Demetrius Payne said, help us.
you know, what I love about what you said of us trying to rush our seasons, you know, I think that rushing our season sometimes is, you know, it's like we want God's best, but we just get tired of waiting, you know. And for me, I always like, and I'm just being very transparent and honest. I've been wondering, like, God, what do men do if women put in so much preparation? Because I think about all the preparation that I have been putting in the past 2 years. You know, I'm like, God, if I'm putting in this much preparation, do men think like this? You know, when men are just to themselves, or do they have moments where they're to themselves? Because you see so many that just kind of go from one relationship to the next and not really giving themselves time to heal, especially in the African American culture. We don't. This is probably the most I've heard us talk about healing ever. So I've never seen.
And healing's been around for how long, right? Healing has been around for how long?
Umpteen years. They ain't even no count on it. And the thing is, I've never heard, you know what I'm saying, like black men say, I'm healing before I go into another relationship. I'm just being honest. I got cousins, boy cousins. I have a brother, you know, he's 3 years younger than me. You know, like I've just never seen a man transition and say, what, right now I'm gonna be by myself. Most times I see I'm hurt, so I'm gonna just go mess with this one and that one. So can you kind of speak to why is it that in our culture we don't take that time, or I'm not seeing men take that time to really just evaluate themselves and heal instead of just moving on?
Right. And that was something I was going to tap into. But what I will say, and this is just my opinion, I feel there are not enough examples.
I agree.
Right. So again, it's like, how many people in our lives have told us, hey, you need to take time to heal before you move on, especially in the African American culture. And we look at our culture and we listen to, you know, the music that is out. Who is writing music about you need to heal before you move on?
Correct.
Who's writing music about you need to heal before you move on? It's more so move on to the next guy or move on to the next group, right? So again, we don't have enough examples. So here's what happens with a lot of men. Men sometimes struggle with expressing themselves. And the reason why is they often never get an opportunity to express themselves.
That's good.
So I always remember this example, right? Where my mom was just going off one day and just, rah, 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 rah. And I'm like, well, Dad, yo, why is she always yelling? Like, I don't understand. And my dad is just like, that's what women do. So to me, for the longest, I just feel like, well, women just rah, 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 the mouth, and I just got to take it, or I just got to turn the other cheek and go the other way, right? So I've never had an opportunity to express how I truly feel about something, because if I get into an argument or a conversation where we agree to disagree, it's almost like I was taught initially, hey, just shut up and let women just yell and talk and they'll be okay in a few hours. Now I don't know how to express myself because I'm keeping it in. Now I'm a grown man that's like, well, women are just supposed to yell, and you know, and I'm as a man just supposed to take it. Now I'm not saying fight fire with fire, but there is a way for two adults to say, hey, let's sit down. And I didn't really learn this roughly until, give or take, when I got closer to my 30s.
Wow.
There's a way that two people can sit down and say, hey, let's put our problem on the table. What's the issue here? My issue is X, Y, and Z. Okay, instead of us arguing about it, or one person's truth being right and another person's truth being wrong, let's actually sit down and just have a conversation. Let me hear your truth and you hear my truth. And I always mention in my last relationship, I told my ex often, I said, look, I don't have to accept your truth, but I will respect your truth. So you tell me what your truth is. You tell me what you feel. You tell me what you believe. You tell me certain things. And I respect it. I'm not going to say that's blasphemous and how dare you say that, because initially those are things that I said because I'm like, how can you accuse me of certain things when I'm not doing it? But I've learned there are ways to have a conversation, because I know going back and forth doesn't solve anything. So I learned, hey, let's put the problem on the table. Let me see where you're coming from. Let me explain where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And from that point, we can kind of find a way to meet in the middle. Because as Christians, that's what we should be doing.
Correct.
Anyway. Like it says, we should be slow to anger. You know what I mean? Things along those lines. So we should be slow to getting angry.
And quick to listen.
Quick to listen, right? There's reasons why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should be listening twice as much as we speak. So that's something that, to me, I feel like as men, we haven't had that opportunity. And this is like the first time in history where there's been an emphasis on healing and having a conversation. And African Americans, realistically speaking, just started getting into going to counseling.
That's real talk.
So counseling back then wasn't even something that we did as a people. So it was like we handle our problems the way we handle our problems. So we're not even getting another insight or another set of eyes. We're just growing to normalize women yell. As a man, you got to pick your battle.
And
I feel like
I love that you said that. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. The only thing, and that's the biggest thing. We've grown to normalize certain things to where even some people say happy wife, happy life. The devil is a liar in all capital letters. It should be happy house, happy spouse. Correct. Why is it happy wife, happy life? Because again, now the husband is walking around hoping things internally. He's not happy, but it's happy wife, happy life. As long as he's happy, I'm happy, right? But realistically speaking, how happy can you be if she's the only one that's being satisfied in the marriage?
Ooh, that so many people are dealing with that. And some of the things I saw in here, Dorian Gibbs says some of us feel like we're not being heard, which I agree.
That's big.
Raylan said men aren't really taught how to deal with and process their emotions. At young ages, they can't express their emotions because it's considered a sign of weakness, and boys are taught to be tough. A horrible misconception that has been embedded in our men. Maya said, so true. Healing, the only example they've given is the best way to get over one is to get under another, which is not so. Hey Candace.
You see the common theme there? A lot of these things are just things that are just being normalized. The best way to get over a woman is, like you said, to get up under another one. As men, we don't know how to express ourselves if we're not given the opportunity. So like you mentioned, to me, I know sometimes I would keep certain things in because I'm like, man, talking to person X is like me talking to my wall. It's like I'm not being heard. So if I'm not being heard, I'm just going to take it as an L. You know what? You're not going to listen to me. You're not going to try to understand my truth or where I'm coming from. So what is the point of me expressing myself? Now I don't know how to express myself because I don't have the opportunity, or I'm not dating someone who is saying, you know what? Let me listen to you, and not listen to respond, but listen to understand where I'm coming from. So many people, or some people I should say, listen to respond. They listen to me to have a counter argument against what I'm saying. So it shouldn't be, let me listen to him so I can come back at him with something. We're not in a rip battle, right? It's not like I'm ripping on you and you trying to, we shouldn't be. We're on, and you are a sports person, we're on the same team. It shouldn't be, well, I want to score 20, I want to score more than you. It should be, hey, it doesn't matter who is scoring. That's why, if we think about like the Golden State Warriors, why they had success up until their last year, is they didn't care who was the leading scorer. But once it got into the last year where Kevin Durant got into argument with Draymond Green, for any basketball fans, right? That's when it started to go down here. That's when KD in his head was like, I gotta leave. Because again, I'm not valued here. You know, they feel like they can win without me. And all these, now there's tension in the locker room, right? So we got to realize we're on the same team. But again, you can't expect a man to know how to express himself emotionally if he's not given the opportunity to do so. It's not just something that just you do. It's just like with playing basketball. As growing up, I would always read about shooting film. But the best way for me to become a shooter or a good shooter, which my friends will probably say I developed that, is my repetition.
That's good.
I would shoot hundreds and hundreds of shots a day. So I had the opportunity to shoot. If I didn't have the opportunity to shoot, I would have never became a good shooter. So a man will never learn how to express himself emotionally if he's never given the opportunity, or if he feels like I'm expressing myself emotionally, but I have somebody that's tuning me out, or they're just listening to argue against what I'm saying. Because if I'm saying I'm emotionally hurt or I'm bothered by something, as a woman, it shouldn't be, well, you shouldn't be hurt. You should be X, Y, and Z. Now it goes back to what somebody else said, where we're taught to be tough. We're taught, me saying I'm hurt sounds soft. But how is that being soft? I'm a human being. Before I'm a man, I'm a human. So there are going to be certain things that may hurt me, even as a man. Even as a man, I'm still masculine. I can still be masculine and be hurt.
Absolutely. You're still human.
So I'm still human. So some people miss the boat on that, to where I'm not going to interpret his feelings because he's just in his feelings. But when a woman is in her feelings, oh, that's just what women do. Women be in their feelings.
Yeah.
But when a man do it, oh, this dude, he keep crying and, oh, it's getting on my nerves. When a man is trying to express himself. And then when we wonder why we have men that are broken, don't know how to express themselves, they go from one woman to the next because it's what they're exposed to, and they don't have an opportunity to express their emotions. So you can't expect a man to do something that he has never done or never had the opportunity to do. It's not fair to him.
You know,
I'm
glad you said that. And one of the things I talk about in my coaching, which I talk heavily about in my second book, Intimacy, is I always challenge, especially when I'm coaching women, I always challenge them to listen with their heart. You know, your heart is the place of empathy. And, you know, the word of God also says that a soft tone will turn away wrath. And sometimes, you know, in our culture, we are taught to raise our voice, to yell, to get our point across. And that doesn't get your point across. So what it does is put the other person on defense. And so I always ask, you know, when we're talking and I'm in my sessions, what did your heart hear this person say? What did your heart hear him say? Because when you're listening with your heart, it's a different type of setup. When you're listening with your ears, a lot of times you will hear offense because you're already offended. And so it makes it very, very tough to really get to the root of, is he upset that you came home at 9 o'clock, or is his love language quality time? And he was expecting that this night we were going to.
Oh, man.
Now we're not. And so he's upset and he's not talking to you. And you thinking, well, I was at work. I mean, what you expect? No, the issue is, I was expecting quality time because that's my love language, but because you do not know me, you believe that I'm offended at something else. You think I'm offended because we eating at 9. No, I'm offended because I've been waiting since 7.
Right. And that's the biggest thing. And here's what happens. Like I said, you have to, like you said, listen with your heart, but listen to understand, not listen to respond. So if we use that same example, I'm mad that my wife came home at 9 because my love language, in which it really is quality time. So I'm up. Hey, see, great minds think alike, right? So I'm upset at quality time. But someone who's listening to respond is thinking, well, I'm at work. What else do you expect me to do? Versus someone who's listening to understand their spouse. You know what, babe? You know, I understand where you're coming. I understand why you're upset. You're not upset because I came home at 9. You're upset that, hey, you know what? I wanted to spend more quality time with you. That's why I'm upset. I'm not upset that you had to work extra hours or you had to stay late at work. But again, someone who's listening to respond, that's going to be the response. Oh, I'm at work, and what do you expect me to do? And my boss is blah, 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 blah. Now it turns into an argument versus listening to understand. And now you're like, oh, I understand where he's coming from. You know, so again, we got to pay attention to our partner's love language. And that's another thing. You know, I often see these memes where I think Nipsey was saying, or somebody said, like, you got to study your queen to know what she wants. I feel you got to study your king.
Come on.
You got to study your king to understand what he wants. So again, if you understand if somebody, again, that's why I'm praying for someone who understands me. To understand my love language is quality time. So Carlton wants to spend quality time. I have to understand that Carlton, most of his day is spent at work, coaching, ministry, doing these things. So he wants to spend quality time with me. So I need to make an effort to make sure that I'm spending quality time with him. Versus, well, I don't got enough time and you're too busy and I'm too busy and we're coming up with all these excuses. It should be, let's figure out a way to spend quality time. If someone else's love language is words of affirmations, I need to be affirming my spouse every moment that I get. Even though we've been dating for 2 years, I still need to be affirming certain things. And that goes back to, how does a man prepare to be a husband, or how does a man prepare to be a wife?
We want to know.
Boom. Right. Here's one thing. I'll start with this and I'll backtrack a little bit. So first thing is, you have to look at Ephesians 5, where it says a man should love his wife as Christ loved the church. The only way that's possible is to spend time with the one who created your spouse.
That's good.
So you have to know the creator. So again, if I'm trying to enhance an Apple product, I can't do that hanging around Android people. No offense to somebody with Android.
Come on.
But I can't go to Samsung and say, how do I make this Apple phone better? That's like me going to the culture to say, how can I make my wife happy?
Yeah.
If I listen to the culture, it's going to be take her on vacations, buy her Louboutins, buy her Louis Vuitton, his and hers, X, Y, and Z. But her love language is words of affirmation. And you buying her all this stuff. I'm a Christian, right?
Yeah, and we just said
right? You just want me to tell you, my wife, my spouse wants me to just tell her that she's gorgeous, she's beautiful, and that I'm proud of her. But I'm buying her a bunch of gifts because that's what the culture is telling me to do. You cannot enhance an Apple phone by hanging with Samsung or Android. I can't make a better Nike shoe going to the Under Armour factory. I got to spend time with the creator. So I got to spend time with the one who created my spouse in his image. And if you're not spending time with God and you're not intentional about it, God is going to delay leading you to the one he has for you. So how do we prepare to be a wife? First, understand Ephesians 5 says you have to learn to love her as Christ loved the church. And you're not going to love a woman that way if you don't learn about the one who created her. Because once you learn, like I mentioned last week about Proverbs 18:22, to where a man is going to find a treasure. So he's going to see the treasure that God placed inside of that woman versus, like I said, we talked about last week, polish your treasure. Don't pass it around. Don't use your treasure to attract a man, because the right man that God has for you is going to see that treasure in you when he meets you. But that's because he spent time with the creator. We can appreciate a good Apple upgrade because we had the iPhone 11, the 10, the 9. So when the 12 comes out, we can appreciate the updates because we've been spending so much time with Apple. We got to spend time with the creator, right? I'll backtrack real quick to the liminal space and the time between being single, being in a relationship. A man has to acknowledge and accept any healing that needs to be done.
Come on.
Because you cannot love somebody from a place of brokenness. You got to acknowledge and be a man. Look yourself in the mirror. And this is going back to spending time with the Creator. I need to acknowledge what I need to heal.
Come on.
And I feel like even me as a single man, right? Before God can lead me to my wife, God said, bro, I need you to do some healing. Even though I fought it, like, nah, I'm cool. I'm good. You know, I just was in the wrong relationship. But God was like, that relationship took so much out of you. It hurt you. And you're still hurting.
Yeah.
So I had to acknowledge and I had to accept that I needed to heal. So as men, we have to acknowledge and accept where we need to be healed. Be transparent. Again, just like going back to basketball. If you haven't healed from that torn meniscus or ACL injury or a broken ankle or a torn Achilles, you shouldn't be playing on nobody's roster. You shouldn't be on nobody's roster with a torn meniscus, or I'm only a month out of ACL surgery. You know, God said I'm ready. No, the devil is a liar. You're just eager to get back onto the court.
Come on, because you
need to take. You can't. You know, nobody's going to sign you with a torn ACL. Take the 6 months to heal. That's what I said. Take this summer off.
Yeah.
Take this summer off. I'm healing my figurative ACL. I gotta heal that part of me. I gotta heal the part of me that was broken in my last relationship. I gotta heal trauma that I've experienced my entire life. Right? I gotta heal all those things, because in order for me to love my wife the way that Christ loved the church, like it mentions in Ephesians 5, is I gotta be whole. I cannot love my wife or my spouse the way that Christ loved the church from a place of brokenness. I gotta heal first. Good. I gotta heal. I gotta acknowledge it and I gotta accept it. Because again, it's one thing to acknowledge I got a torn ACL, but are you going to accept the process that comes with healing it? Or are you going to walk around with a big knee brace on and try to, walk around with a little limp? Oh, that's just the way I walk. The devil is a liar. Heal your ACL. Heal your heart. Get better. Get better.
Why
that's what I'm saying. We have
to struggle with doing that though, Carlton? Like, why?
Because we're impatient. It's impatience. It's what we're exposed to. Because again, if you're scrolling through social media, right? I'm looking at exposure from a lot of different things, right? Exposure. We're exposed to social media, and we scroll. And I being transparent, I've never seen so many people in relationships and getting proposed to and having babies on my timeline ever. I'm like, man, everybody's getting knocked up. Everybody's having, children. Everybody's getting married. Everybody. I'm like, she got a boo. I'm like, she's pregnant. Like, what's going on? Right? So I'm exposed to that. So I'm like, man, where's my spouse?
That's it. Come on. Me too.
Right? Where's mine? Right?
It's the land of brotherhood, because it ain't down in the South.
Right. But we gotta be mindful. This is just not our season. Because God promised to give you the desires of your heart. So that's intact. If God promised to give you the desires of your heart, why are you rushing to get there? If God promised it, because God can't take a promise.
That's it.
This is in the word of God that he promised to give you the desires of your heart. Here's the thing too. If we go back to Genesis, he made you in his image. So he placed everything inside of you to be a husband or a wife. So if God already put that in you, why are you questioning if you're going to be a husband or a wife? It's only a matter of time, not if.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is God placed those things inside of you. So if you know God placed those things inside of you to be a husband or a wife, God might need us to take a season to develop those things that he put inside of us. Good. And if we're not developing those things, and we keep getting caught up, like I said, in the me and somebody's son memes and social media, we're never going. But yeah, vacations. We on vacations, but we got gifts inside of us that are undeveloped or
and
underdeveloped.
some of us on vacation because we running from home.
Right.
Those are distractions.
That's a word. That's a word.
We got to do all these vacations. It's because we are trying to run from the fact that we are toxic together. And so what's the easiest thing to do? To run away. So let's go somewhere else, and let's focus on other things, so we ain't got to focus on fighting each other at the house every day.
Right. Here's something funny. Here's something good, right?
Come on.
We often choose distraction over development.
Ooh.
And we wonder why we're in the same space.
Come on.
We choose distraction over development. So it's like we rather be distracted on vacations in Miami, and we got matching Gucci flip-flops, and we just living it up, and we got 500 likes on our last picture. But what God needs you in this season, he needs you to be doing some development. But you don't want to put in the work. You don't want to put in the work to be a wife or to be a husband. You rather be distracted. So that's why we find ourselves in these entanglements, and finding ourselves blaming men. There ain't no good men out there, or all women are toxic. Like you said, we being toxic together, and nobody ain't working on their toxicness.
No. And culture is liking your picture. Yeah, girl. I look right. So we liking it, and nothing annoys. I always tell people, haters are not the people that don't like you. Haters are the people that clap for dysfunctional behavior, so you stay in. The same people that clap for dysfunctional, that's your hater. Because a person that love you gonna say, Carlton, now wasn't you just with Susie last week? How you in love? How this baby? How this love of your life? And now you with this person. You see what I'm saying? How Sway? You was just in a relationship or in a 3-year, 5-year, telling me you was gonna get engaged to this woman, and now you in love with this person. Where they came from? How did they arrive? And then we find ourselves frustrated and agitated, and we waste time in these entanglements, and then we irritated with God, and we want God to free us. God said, I didn't tell you to get into it. You was distracted, didn't want to get developed.
Exactly, and that's where it is, right? We can't get mad at God when God told us to use that single season to develop yourself, not to distract yourself. Because here's what happens, right? What's more comfortable, being developed or being distracted from the pain that you felt from your last relationship?
Come on.
Right? Because people don't want to, because people feel like people want to numb their pain versus correcting the issue. People would rather manage the pain that they have versus going to the doctor saying, hey, I know this is not a normal pain. I know my knee pain is not normal. Can you give me something that's going to, give me something, or give me a method or an approach that I can use to deal with this pain? Not just manage it, not just ibuprofen 800, but how can I correct this issue? And again, sometimes we're surrounded by the wrong people. We're surrounded by people who want to distract us and not develop us. Come on now, right? Because we're surrounded by people who want to see you distracted, who want you to remain the same, right? People always say, people want you doing good, but not better than them. So people just want to keep distracting you. And again, sometimes people are not even distracting you like I'm purposely going to distract this person. But at the end of the day, if you're not helping develop that person, if you're not helping develop your single friend or someone who just got out of a bad relationship, or a relationship that just didn't work out, then you're a distraction, because you're distracting them from their development, and you're distracting them from God, because God's never going to distract you. God is going to develop you, because faith without works is dead. So if you're praying in faith for a husband, or if you're praying in faith for a wife, then you're going to do the work that follows, because faith without works is dead. So there's no faith without working.
Yeah.
So there's no faith without doing the development. So faith is not getting distracted and saying the one that God has for me is for me. And until then, I'm just going to do me. The devil is a liar. Doing me should be developing yourself and using this single season to work on you. So that's why I said, hey, how do I prepare for a wife? You have to acknowledge and accept your healing. Acknowledge that there's some things about me that need to be corrected, that need to be healed. I'm no longer going the rest of my life managing knee pain and just taking ibuprofen and hoping it feels better. I'm actually going to go get the surgery done. I'm going to go take some time off. Whatever I need to do, I'm going to acknowledge my healing and I'm going to accept it. Because again, I cannot love a woman the way that Christ loved the church if I'm not whole. I have to, as a man, I have to be whole. If I'm not whole, I cannot give you my best. How can I lead you to Jesus Christ? How can I lead you to God if he's not even leading my life? Or if I'm in a place of brokenness, I have to heal. I have to take this season off. This is my COVID season. I have to heal. If I continue to go out into the world, I'm going to contract COVID, or I'm going to put myself at risk. So I need to stay in and develop my gifts. What did God place in me before I was born? What things did he place inside of me that's going to make me a good husband? What of those things do I need to develop in this season? Even if we narrow it down, what's one thing that I want to, as we approach August, what is one thing from August until December 31st that I can work on to improve myself and ready myself more to be a husband? And also it applies to be a wife, right? So we have to stop being impatient because, again, it's all about what we're exposed to. So we're exposed to, number one, like I said, social media, the culture, but also, two, what were we exposed to growing up? If you've seen your mom and your dad go from boom, let's go. I'm ready. Hey, I'm talking today. Let's go. I'm ready. Right? So what were you exposed to growing up? Did you see your mom jump from person to person to person? Or did you see toxicness normalized? Like I said, my dad said, women just yell. That's just what they do, son. You just gotta let them yell and let them cool off. And I go into my first, few relationships normalizing that. The devil is a liar. We need to talk like human beings. This normalizing you always yelling, hey, what's on your heart? What's the posture of your heart? What hurt do you have as a child that you're harboring, harboring? And that's why that counseling or coaching piece is important, because I need to unpack those things. That's why I said you need to acknowledge what I need to heal and also accept it, right? Versus saying there's nothing wrong with me. It's the men that I choose. Well, again, the men that you choose, if you keep running into the same issues, you got to look yourself in the mirror. Or, hey, why do I keep attracting the same type of men? I keep attracting broken men because I'm broken. Just like people who are flashy with designer and all kind of things, when they typically attract women that are just as flashy. We are what we attract. So if you're attracting broken men and broken relationships, you got at some point got to look in the mirror and say, hey, there's something broken up in here that's attracting broken people.
That's it.
The good news is we don't got to dwell on being broken. We can say, hey, I'm broken, but I'm going to get better.
Come on.
Just because I tore my patella tendon and the doctor said, you're young, you can make a full recovery. You go through surgery, you go through 6 weeks of bed rest, and it's going to be about a 6-month process for you to make a full recovery. I embraced that. I didn't rush it, right? I remember one of the first times that I called my doctor. It was like week 4. I'm like, called my doctor, Lauren. I'm like, hey, man, I'm ready for PT, physical therapy, man. I'm ready because I'm walking around my house. I'm like, man, I'm tired of sitting in the bed with this brace on my leg. I'm walking around my apartment without my crutches. I'm like, yeah, I got it. I'm ready for physical therapy.
Come on.
That's what my doctor told me. He said, hey, man, 6 weeks, we'll reevaluate everything. He said 6 weeks, not in week 4, bro. I know you feel good. You feeling, I'm kind of feeling springy. I'm walking without my crutches. But the doctor said week 6, we'll reevaluate everything to make sure you're ready for therapy. Stop trying to rush your season. Take the time to heal. Just because I tore my patella tendon doesn't mean that it wasn't going to heal. I had to take the time and be intentional about healing it. I had to take 6 months off. I had to take time off from work. I had to, I couldn't play basketball, or I couldn't go to the gym and lift weights like I wanted to. I had to take that time off to heal so that I can be better, so that I can actually train to a full capacity. Now I can run and sprint as fast as I want to now. Why? Because I did the healing.
Yeah.
So again, if you keep finding yourself in broken relationships, situationships, entanglements, what about me is attracting entanglements? What about me is, it's the wrong men. If you keep choosing them, you gotta look in the mirror. What's going on?
And when you're broken, you'll choose what's comfortable. What's comfortable when you're not ready to be stretched, and you'll settle. And my favorite quote that I always say is, if you ever settle, you'll never be settled. See, that's why I can't settle. And so I'm going to read some of our comments, because we've definitely got some really great ones. I'm going to scroll up some. Demetrius Payne said, you'd rather be distracted than developed. We had a question too up here that I wanted us to kind of speak to as well. And I think that, what I love about our generation is that we're bringing to the forefront the conversations that used to be off limits, because I know, like, my mom, that 60 plus age group, they didn't do this.
Right, exactly.
We just had prayer service and prayed about it, and nobody addressed why granddaddy had 3 different families. You see what I'm saying? Or like, why, cousin so-and-so really not your cousin, and all this kind of craziness. And
right.
We just buried it. But the thing is, it still showed up in our fruit. You buried it, but your fruit still bared it. You still bared the same fruit. So now you're dealing with fruit that don't know how to be fruit.
Right. Or it's poisonous fruit, right? You know what I mean? It's fruit with mold on it. So at the end of the day, if your fruit has mold on it, it's poison. It's not something we can digest.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And so I was trying to see, I thought I saw the question, but I evidently missed it. But Demetrius Payne said intentional healing. Yes, don't rush it. Angela said, when you do the work, you will grow and stop settling. And this is what I also wanted to kind of speak to too. And guys, please share our live. I know it's going to bless somebody. Thank y'all so much for being a part of our conversation. So what do you tell the man that got into the relationship but didn't heal? Or he got into a relationship with a woman who did not heal? What do we do when we find ourselves at that point in the lockdown with somebody who has not done the work? Because that happens.
Right. I feel like we have to acknowledge it again. You have to acknowledge and accept it. And again, you have to be with the right person to be able to feel comfortable and say, you know what, hey, I have to be open. I didn't do all of the healing that I needed to do in my single season. I haven't done it. But I do want to heal.
Yeah.
So that person has to be willing to not judge this person for being broken. And it's almost like I said, you have to contribute to my calling more than you celebrate.
Yeah.
So if I enter, that's why you have to pray for the right person, because even though I might have been doing the healing in my season, I meet my spouse and we identify like, well, babe, there's something else that you need to heal. But if I'm with the right person, that person is going to help me heal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with helping heal, right? If you get into a relationship and hey, babe, we're going to work together. And it always goes back to the 3 braided cord, like it mentions, right? 3 braided cord where it mentions, 3, where it's God and both spouses. Yeah. So again, me, you, and God, we are going to help you heal. And this goes both ways. To me, I would hope my spouse would say that to me. And if I was dating someone who says, hey, I came into this thing with some brokenness and I didn't do all the healing that I needed to do. Well, babe, you know what? I love you. Me, you, and God are going to work together to make sure you heal. Because I love you too much to lose you. And at the end of the day, marriage is our goal. Or if it gets that far and you get married and there's some things that are identified as being broken, that would be interesting, to say the least. But at the same time, you can still take the same approach to say, hey, I don't want to get divorced, or I don't want to lose you, or I don't want our marriage to be fractured because you haven't healed from some things. So let's take the time to do so. If we need counseling, let's do counseling. If we need coaching, we need coaching. If we need both, we need both. But I need you to be open, honest, and transparent. So again, like I said, acknowledging what needs to be healed and going into your internal inventory and looking at everything that's on the list. And you got to say, what on this list does not belong there? Insecurity, let's get rid of it. Versus saying, I'm going to, because I talked with a client to where it was like a man is supposed to, make a woman feel a certain type of way. And I feel, I tell people all the time, insecurity is an inward security. That is confidence about yourself. A man should contribute to that, but he shouldn't be the reason that you have confidence in yourself.
Come on.
Because the word of God says that a man who finds a wife finds a treasure. So you should already know that you are a treasure and that you have a treasure inside.
Come on.
You should have confidence in who Christ created you to be without any man. It shouldn't be the fact that I got a ring on my finger and my man tells me that he loves me every day. That's the reason I feel good about myself. Because what happens, Lauren, is this. If you do not know who you are in Jesus Christ, God may remove that crutch from your life. Right? So some people he will, right? And that's why sometimes people who are married, they get divorced and they realize I lost myself. Because yourself was your husband.
Come on.
And people sometimes mistake their identity. So what's your identity? Well, I'm a wife and I'm a six-figure this and I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a mom. But when those things are taken away, who are you? So that's why your identity has to be built in Jesus Christ. Because guess what? Nobody can take Christ away from you. Or nobody can take away anything that Christ has put inside of you. So your identity has to be in Christ. So when it comes to insecurity is a lack of confidence in who Christ created you to be. That has nothing to do with a husband. That has nothing to do with a X amount of carat wedding ring. That doesn't have nothing to do with your wedding. That has nothing to do with how many kids you have. That has nothing to do with if he buys you a car or buys you Christian Louboutins or takes you on vacations. It has nothing to do with that. Insecurity is about confidence about who Christ. Insecurity is between you and Christ. Don't put it on that man. You make me feel insecure. Maybe a man might irritate your insecurities, but he wouldn't irritate your insecurities if they weren't there.
It has you healed.
So that's something you got, and that's why we got to go back. You got to acknowledge and accept that I have insecurities, and I ideally need to work on that before I get into a relationship. Or I'm going to find myself, my husband is the reason I feel good about myself. And hypothetically speaking, if your husband unfortunately passes away,
come on.
So it's not he cheated on you or anything along those lines. He passes away. He's gone on to be with the Lord. You're telling me that your identity died too?
Yeah.
Because your identity was connected to him?
Yeah, for some people, absolutely.
So that's why when I work with my clients who have insecurities, I said, we got to figure out your identity. We got to define who you are in Christ. And once you understand that, a man is ultimately going to be a compliment. A man is going to be a watch to your outfit. It's going to be a compliment. Versus it being the man is the whole outfit. So if you take the whole outfit away, you ain't got nothing. A man is going to be the watch and the accessories and everything else that brings it all together.
Yeah.
So we got to acknowledge and accept the healing. So even if you are in a relationship and you say, hey, I didn't deal with some insecurities, you know what, baby? That's okay. We are going to work together to identify or find your or discover or define your identity in Jesus Christ. That's what we're going to do together.
But that's what
me and you in
that's
Christ.
what intimacy is. That's when people read my book,
and that's
when
people
intimacy. Read my book, Intimacy, I talk about I basically bear the man's insecurities and the woman's. I bear it for them. So when they're reading it, they can say, okay, this is exactly what it looks like. You think I'm this great king when you don't even realize I'm still a broken boy. You see what I'm saying?
Right,
You think that I'm this great queen, but you don't even realize that I don't even know my value. And I'm in search of it. And so intimacy allows us to work on those things. And if we can't work on what we won't reveal, we can't work on what we won't expose. So when we want to hide, a lot of us like to dress up our brokenness and we spray perfume on it so you can't smell it either. And
smell it, right.
So you don't even realize that I'm dying. I'm dead. I'm not coming back, and you can just continue to appear to be good. I tell people all the time, pictures are only snapshots of moments. You and I can take a picture right now, but that don't mean we wasn't cussing, fighting, and tearing each other down 10 seconds prior or 10 seconds after.
And that's what people miss. That's
what we miss. We have some more comments. Oh, I found the question. Someone asked, what about bad business entanglements? And hey, Ebony Harris, what about bad business entanglements? That was one question. I'm going to continue so we can talk about them. Demetrius Payne said, it says a man that finds a wife. So as women, what should we be doing? Should we be looking or walking in our purpose, and he will find us working? Oh, I got that question for you, Demetrius Payne. Don't even worry about it.
We'll tap into that.
Down your street around your corner. You can just go and follow the Ruth Lifestyle blog right now. That's all they doing. Kim Redefined said both working, not just one. Angela Holiday said that it's you that's if you have to acknowledge and surrender, that's what needs to be healed. So you need to acknowledge and surrender. So everybody else was amen to you. Demetrius Payne says she done shared the live twice. Thank you so much. Y'all continue to share. Please.
That's a blessing. Yeah, please share.
Come on, can't work on what will not admit. So I'm going to let you talk about the business entanglement first. That question about what about if you're in a business entanglement with someone maybe that's not healed, and I'll piggyback, and then I want to address what should we as doing as we are preparing for our king, darling, because that's my specialty.
So I'm assuming like the business. So this is like a business, like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Charnel said, okay, Charnel. She said, okay, yeah, that was your question. Okay, so it was Charnel's question. I saw your question, and then I saw somebody else ask the question. I didn't know who had originally asked it. But Charnel said it's her question. So I'm guessing she's asking from a space of doing business with somebody that may be broken, I'm guessing. I would fathom to say, or Charnel, if you want to give us any more clarity on it.
Yeah. I can just tap into it a little bit based on what I'm understanding and what I'm hearing. I feel if you're in an entanglement business-wise with someone who's not healed and it is impacting the decisions that they're making, if there's a way that maybe you could maybe retract or maybe back out of it, and again, it also too gets into acknowledging and accepting healing too. Yeah. Right? You know what I mean? So it does. So again, that even gets into acknowledging and accepting healing too as a business, as a person. So acknowledging and accepting healing is, it's not just, again, when we acknowledge and we accept our healing, it's not just to be a husband or be a wife. it's ultimately we have to acknowledge and accept healing as entrepreneurs or someone that's doing a business or doing business ventures, right? Because if we go back to insecurities, right, and you're doing something with someone who's insecure, they could be thinking, you know, well, this person's trying to get over on me, and now that's impacting your business decisions. You could have had a great business decision. You could have had a partnership with somebody for life, but you're insecure because you think you want them to, you think you're going to shine more than you, or you're not comfortable in your ability, different things along those lines. So again, that's why we got to even heal before we as a person to even be more effective on our jobs or as parents or as, you know, entrepreneurs or doing business ventures. So like I said, you know, possibly backing out or even just bringing those things to the table, right? You know what I mean? Hey, as a business partner, as your friend, or as someone that's wanting to do business with you, I don't want to just do business with you. I want the best for you as a person outside of this venture. As outside of doing business, I want the best for you. And this is something that I noticed. Now, ultimately, we also, too, have to pray for that person's heart.
Yeah.
Because what happens is over time, we develop a different appetite. So sometimes that comment saying, hey, I noticed that maybe, you know, there's some, as a person, maybe there's some healing that you need to do. Somebody might initially interpret that as a defensive comment. Or an offensive comment, I'm offended, and now they go on deep.
Correct.
But if we pray for that person's heart maybe in advance, maybe God softens their heart to say, you know what, Charnel, like, yeah, you're right, man. I'm tripping, or you know what, maybe I still do have some insecurities, and no one has ever brought that to my attention. So when we think about calling, calling is not always church. Calling is not always about making 6, 7, 8 figures. Calling might just be the person. Charnel, you might be the person, the only person that business person ever hears that from, because everybody else that does business with them is talking business. Let's talk numbers. Let's talk money. Let's talk salary. Let's talk this. Let's talk that. But your calling, a part of your calling might be to reveal their insecurities. So you can reveal insecurities in any relationship.
That's good.
Because guess what happens? You reveal insecurities in a business relationship, right? Now this person is a better person to do business with.
That's it.
Because you prayed for their heart, and you prayed Romans 12:2, God, don't let them conform to what they're used to, but transform them into a better person, transform them into who you want them to be, right? That's where we got to start praying for our people. Our calling might just be to expose somebody's insecurity, but also pray that they're receptive to what I'm saying. So that way they're not offended to go on defense, but they're open to be better. I pray that answers your question. Maybe I went the long way, but I feel like that would be my approach.
I definitely agree with that, and I'll piggyback off of this. Oh, I just pinned in the message comments, Intimacy. So if you want to purchase the book, if you haven't gotten a copy, I just pinned the website where you can purchase it. But I would also say this: always think about your why. What were you looking for? You know, and I ask those kind of questions. What was your expectation going into the thing? Because sometimes based on what we expect, that could be the very reason why our feelings are hurt. Because sometimes you don't realize that sometimes we expect too much. And people don't have what you think they. And so that's why discernment is so important, you know, in whatever relationship that you are about to enter into, because the enemy is after your purpose, not your pockets. He's not after your pockets. He only after your pockets if it's tied to your purpose. If he can get
Purpose.
you to
Yeah,
give
that's
up
the
on
thing.
that, then he can get you right where he wants you. And so you always think about, you know, like Tyler Perry said, why did I get married? Why did I get in this relationship? What did I expect to learn or to gain from being in the presence or being attached to this person? Because based on what I expected will help me to understand why, you know, why I may be there. So hopefully that helps to help other people. And Chanel, great question. Thank you for dropping in. I'm glad
Yeah, very, very, very good question.
he said,
Yeah.
trying to acknowledge our Black people and trying to support them. Yes, and sometimes that's hard. Supporting us sometimes
We gotta,
is
yeah,
hard.
and that's why I said we gotta pray for hearts,
Yeah.
because the thing sometimes that frustrates me, especially about us as African
Mhm.
Americans, I often say, like, the culture sometimes says, I steal this from the culture. Sometimes it's your own people. Like, we don't want to take criticism or critique from one
Yeah.
another. It's like, I'm trying to help you be better, but
You don't want
they're like, well, they don't want to
you want
get better, and
the
that's the thing.
dysfunction looks sexy. I don't know what dysfunction. I think
Right?
the dysfunction, they be dressing it up in like Victoria's Secret.
Exactly. Yeah, they make it look real
It looks
good,
sexy.
and that's the thing about it. Yeah, yeah, they normalize it, and like you said, they dress it up. But sometimes it's our own people, man. I mean, sometimes we can't take critique, or we can't be flexible, or we can't listen, and we know it all, and you don't know, and I mean, and that's just us as a people. That's what we got to
But you know
get better. Like I said,
about that, you know, my dad always says, pride comes before the fall, and that is in the book of Proverbs.
Absolutely,
Pride
yeah. I
before the
mean,
fall.
and it's like, yeah, it's like we got to be humble, or God will allow us to be
Yeah.
humble. So again, as Black people, supporting Black
Yeah.
businesses is bigger than just purchasing
Correct.
something, but it's like, can you pour into
Yeah.
somebody? But also, we got to be mindful. Let me not only pour into them, but before I even pour into them, let me pray for the posture of
Come
their heart
on.
to receive what I'm pouring. Because again, you can't pour. For example, I remember, short story. I'll let you get to your
Okay.
question. I remember the one of the first times I was driving. I had got my license. I was geeked up. I
Mhm.
was pumped,
Yeah.
right? And I got this rental car. I'm ready to hit the road. And I remember I was like, gas tank was like, I was like a
Yeah.
half tank. So I go into the store. I'm like, hey, let me get 30 on 8. And I remember I was filling up my
Mhm.
gas, and I seen it. It's like the gas, the nozzle is like
Yeah.
stopping at like
Uh-huh.
18. And I'm like, what's going
Uh-huh.
on? And I see, like, I'm like, why is the gas coming
Yeah.
out? So I go, I'm thinking, I'm like, something wrong with this car. And I'm like, oh my God, I broke it. It's a rental car. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So I go into the store, and they're like, oh, there's too much. You're already full. There's too much gas in it.
Come on.
So sometimes we got people so gassed up that you can't even put nothing into them.
You
Oh my
better
gosh.
praise content.
Oh,
Got
oh
the
man,
cash
we
app
got
so
so
bad
many people that are so gassed
tonight.
up that.
Just
No,
go.
I'm playing.
Just
Wait,
go.
but that's the thing. But
That's
that's the
real.
thing. But that's the thing. So many people are so
Yeah.
gassed up, ego out here. You can't even pour nothing into them because there's too much in there. So we gotta pray for God to release and do some things. So when you pour into them, they can receive it,
Yeah.
right? So that's what we gotta pray for, the posture of people's hearts, and things along those lines, and also pray for their
Yeah.
perspective, what they see. Like I said, to
Eyes.
not conform but be
Yeah.
transformed, right? So we gotta, like I said, that's where supporting Black business comes in for real, for real. It's actually not just buying something, because buying something sometimes feeds into
Come
their ego,
on. That's the part.
because that's pouring into their
That's the
pockets.
part.
Yeah, that's paying for their
Yeah.
vacation. That's paying for their vacation. So I'm getting money versus saying, bro, sis,
Come on.
hey, this is where you can be better. But I'll leave that there. But that's just something, that we have to pray. We have to pray for the posture of people's
Yeah.
hearts to receive what you're trying to say, because you don't want somebody to feel offended to go on defense.
Come on.
You want people to
Yeah.
receive what you're saying. So that's why you have to pray, God, soften their
Mhm.
heart, open their mind, clear their
Yeah.
heart. Just open
Open
them up
God.
so I can pour something in. You know what I mean? Because the only time we fill up a gas tank is when it's on empty.
Yeah.
So, you can't fill up a full car. I tried to do it, and my gas was spilling out. Grateful they give me my money back. Yeah, so right.
Yeah. And that's a whole word right there in itself, because once it's wasted, there is no refund. So bless God. Just don't waste your time, don't waste your juice. But to answer about what should we be doing, first thing you should be doing is following the Ruth lifestyle. So we have a page that's called Lifestyle Blog. I literally created that platform to help women and men, because we have men and women that are on there, to really start working on them, and really talk about what are we doing as we prepare for our purpose mate. What are we doing as we wait to collide into the person that God has designed for us, and to answer the question, we should be found working, doing our Father's business.
Right.
Because the most attractive thing to a king is a woman that has confidence and who is already operating in what she was designed to be. Only a broken man is looking for a weak woman. Only a broken man is looking for a weak woman, but a king is looking for a queen that already knows she's one, that is already operating in her queendom, for lack of better terms. Hey, Ben Holmes, and a woman that is already assured about who she is, because as he is healing and building and becoming whole, we should be doing the same as well as queens. See, in order to understand how to undergird the purpose of a king, you first have to be and worked on yourself. The thing about a king is that a king carries the seed. It is the woman that has the soil. And we can look at that however you want to look at it. If we want to look at it from a tree planting, if we want to look at it from a baby being born, yes, the man releases the seed. However, it's the queen that carries the soil. So the only thing that decides how great the development is the soil. It's not the seed. The seed could be amazing, but if the soil is trash, it still ain't gonna grow. And that is what you want. You want to make sure that your soil is prepared for the seed, because every person carries something in them that is bound to grow when placed properly. But you got to make sure that you got that thing ready to be placed properly. And if you do not, then what you will do in the germination process, the first thing that happens when a seed is planted is that it dies. So what helps it grow is what's already developed in the soil. The seed can't make itself reseed. It's going to be what it is, but it's the soil around it that has the nutrients and the minerals and the proper environment for the seed to grow and become the fruit that we get to eat, and that begins to feed the nation. See, we want to be properly positioned. So as queens, we should find ourselves in the midst of God, in the face of God. God, where do you design me to be? God, where is it that I am my best performing self? God, what do I need to say no to so I can say yes to my greater self? Because you can't say no to yes to good and yes to great. That ain't how it happens. Either you got to choose one or the other. So if you constantly saying yes to what you're good at, you'll never be great, because you will always find yourself spinning your wheels in the things that keep you at mediocre. So you got to be able to elevate yourself, and never think that because maybe you didn't get it right the first time. I didn't get it right the first time, but see, the pain gave me platform, and it also gave me purpose. That's the other thing that people don't like to talk about. Yes, you have gifts that will help to edify what God has placed in you, but most times your purpose is found in your pain, because God works in the uncomfortable, not your comfortability. And none of us like to go and visit the parts of us that have failed. We don't like to discuss the parts of us that weren't really that pretty. But that's the part that God is trying to heal and use. If you look at everybody in the Bible that God ever used to do something great, he used them from a place of their brokenness season. He took them from those seasons and changed their names and took them up to the next level. He didn't take a king to a king, but he took a peasant to one. So that's why you always want to make sure that if we're looking at the book of Ruth, Ruth was still found working. She was still found working. When she went to Boaz and she laid at his feet because she had a Naomi that positioned her properly. That's why it's so important to make sure that your seed is in good soil and that you're around good people. He still had already acknowledged. He knew who she was. And he knew what she carried. But it was the way that she went. She went meekly. She didn't come to his DM, hey, big head. That ain't how she came. You know, she wasn't out there saying, you saw all of what I've been doing. She ain't run him her resume.
Right.
Because the thing about a queen, you know, my mother always used to say a lady is seen before she's heard. Because there's an aura about you. When there's an aura about you, you have a natural light that don't have to be turned on. You don't have to be the loudest in the room or the one half naked in order to get the attention, because a real queen can control a room with her body covered, but her mind exposed. Now get that. That's what a real queen can do. She can hold a conversation. She's able to confidently walk in and be who God has called her to be without having to conform to the environment that she's in. And she doesn't conform. So what we're doing in our season, as we are preparing to collide into our purpose, mate, and you don't want to just be colliding with somebody because you're lonely. See, that right there brings you into entanglement. You want to be colliding with somebody because you want the enemy to be on alert that we are about to birth something greater. The enemy should have got concerned when I found Carlton, because I found him. Carlton did not find me. I found Carlton and told Jocelyn, I want to work with him. I see what he's doing and I want to work with him. I went as a Ruth to a Boaz. And I came to him and he received me. He saw what I had. I did not have to run Carlton my resume. I don't believe that I did. But what I did do was show him he saw what I had. And he saw that what I had spoke to the purpose in him, to the king in him. And so, you know, that is why purposefully aligning with people is so important. That's why intimacy in a relationship is so important, because you're being intimacy. So that way you can understand the position of my heart. You can understand who God is calling me to be. And you're not going to ask me or demand me to be someone different or be someone that is watered down. When someone wants you to be a watered down version of you, then they don't want you. They want their ex. When they want you to be be like the last person, why you don't do things like her, that means they have not healed. They still want you to be their ex. And if you left that situation, I'm sure you left it because it was not functioning. Because nobody leaves a car on the side of the road that's fully able to drive. Have you ever saw a car on the side of the road that was fine? There was nothing wrong with the car? No, cars that are on the side of the road are broken. They're left there for that reason. And so a lot of times we have to find, you know, we have to begin to understand that, again, like Carlton said, in our single season, that we're doing the work. For me, the two things that I got from my parents when I went through my divorce, and both of them being in ministry, said, take your time. That was it. End discussion. Take your time. But I took it a step further and said, what's the point of taking your time if you're not going to do nothing with it? See, I've seen a lot of people take their time to just sit there and be dysfunctional. And then they take 10 years, 20 years, but you have not grown. You have not grown. And so when you have not grown, I mean, I don't care what you did I don't care about the time you spent if you did nothing with it. I want to know what have you been doing? Have you been about your father's business? And if you haven't, then how could you possibly be prepared for a queen? And that's the word of the Lord. So you want to be found walking in your purpose. So that way, you know, when the right man comes, you won't be distracted because his purpose is going to look like yours. Meaning it's going to complement, meaning it's going to edify. It may even be the exact same, but just a different format of it, right? Because we're both carrying the same type of weight. But when you don't know your purpose, you'll settle for anything. Like Charnel said, he wanted a lemon. See, that's the part. When you don't know your purpose, you'll settle for lemons. You'll settle for lemons when God had lemonade waiting. But see, you couldn't wait because lemonade is a process. Eating lemons ain't. So, you know, when you settle, You never be settled. And so you find yourself constantly in this battle. And that's why, women of God, women are the meeker but strong vessel when properly placed. But when we allow ourselves to prematurely come out of a thing and we go into a thing trying to be who God's called us to be without all of the right equipment, everything won't work. And that right there is why it's so important that we take our time and that we do those things. I saw an amazing question that I wanted to answer. Dorian Gibbs said, what should you do if your marriage no longer have the spark because of your past? And they're always being disrespectful towards you in front of family. Well, that is such a beautifully loaded question. The first thing you want to do is understand, what can you control? And what do you know about yourself that no one else can change your mind about? Sometimes we got to hold on to the anchor so that our rope is not just moving along so much. Now, it's a lot of things that's going to go with that. And I feel Carlton, I can feel his spirit rearing up, even in his movement. He about to say something that's going to take us out, and I'm going to let him say it. So just as what I'm going to say, and I'm going to leave it the rest to Carlton right here, is that you want to control you. So you're going to need to start doing the work. And sometimes doing the work is without the other person. And you got to start thinking about, okay, God, what attracted me to that? What's in me? God, show me. That's the first step in doing the work. When I started doing the work in Purposeful Pain, I wanted God to show me. I didn't write Purposeful Pain because I wanted to expose my divorce. No, I wrote Purposeful Pain because I needed people to understand that sometimes you are the problem too. It's not always the action, and it's not always the other person. Sometimes you done brought some toxic stuff to the table too, and that just made the thing erupt as well. So, we want to make sure that we are looking at ourselves first and foremost, because that's the thing that we can control. So Carlton, take it, because I feel you. I can feel your energy.
No, we gotta drop your cash out too.
Drop my cash out.
No, you're right. Yeah, you was preaching. No, I honestly would kind of be on your side as well with that. We all have a responsibility.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, disrespect of the family, we all have to own up to what we're responsible for. So like you said, I have to do my part, but also my spouse may have to accept and acknowledge some healing as well.
Correct.
Or like I said before, we should be able to have a conversation to where, hey, I feel like you're disrespecting me in front of your family or mine or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
We should be able to sit down and have that conversation. And the other person, instead of saying, well, how do I do that? And it should be, okay, give me an example, or where was a time where you felt I disrespected you? You know what I mean? That type of thing. And that's an opportunity for a man to express himself and say, well, you told them, I lost my job, and, whatever the case might have been, I felt X, Y, and Z, whatever the case might be. Right. So you can say the person should respond, well, hey, going forward, I won't mention anything about your employment, your money, or anything along those lines. Right. I'm not even going to mention that to my family. That shouldn't be something that, and also too, if that's who you're married to, you should respect that. And then also too, you shouldn't be going behind your husband's back when it's just you and your family, and you like, this dude over here, he's still on unemployment, and he ain't found no job yet. Then it's like, do you really love that person? Yeah, you like, I'm sick of him, and I'm about to leave. If he don't get a job in 2 months, I'm out.
Correct.
Right? Is that who you? It's like, I thought marriage was until death do us part. And you talking about somebody like behind her back, you have to acknowledge and accept there's some healing there too. Yeah. What in your heart? Because that's not God.
Come on.
So what in your heart is leading you to go behind your husband's back and talk about him to your family?
Yeah.
Or what is making you in front of your family feel like I have to shame this man or put this man down? So we gotta, that's why I said that healing piece is so significant.
And the child,
we gotta
and that childhood piece, because maybe you saw mama do that.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's why I said it goes back to what we're exposed to, right? I always saw my mom was always complaining about my dad. So guess what? That's the norm in her life. And if here's the thing, I'll add this in. If that is not handled, you're going to have children that end up doing the same exact thing. Now, little Lauren and little Carlton are having a live about the same thing that we talked about in 2020 and 2040. They're talking about the same thing on Facebook Live. If we don't handle it right now, they're going to be talking about the same thing on live. How to prepare to be a wife and how to prepare to be a husband and what do you do when somebody's talking about your family? If we don't break these generational curses, we got to break it right now. So this is where it stopped. This is where, no, we're gonna set a new generational thing in our family. We are going to talk about our problems or issues, husband to wife, not husband to dad, not wife to sister, not husband to his best friend. Me and you are going to figure this thing out together. I know what happened in the past. I know, my dad would go vent to his friends. My mom, I used to always hear my mom venting to her friends about my dad.
Yep.
I always heard my mom, he ain't this and he ain't do this and he came in too late and the whole nine. It's just vent versus them sitting down and having a conversation. What is the problem? But my mom and dad both on defense. They're yelling at each other, screaming and yelling 2, 3 in the morning. Versus saying, what can we do to figure this out? This has to be the last generation of going back and forth. This has to be the last generation of toxicness. This has to be the last generation where people are posting memes. I'm not built for a soft man because I talk back and I don't listen. This has to be the last generation. It's got to be the last generation, Lauren. This got to be the last generation. The greatest like I said, so it's like, so you're going to sit here and tell me you're going to reject a man because you can't talk back to him and you don't want to listen to him. And we're having this conversation and the topic is how does a man prepare for a wife? So you got a man that's diligently doing his homework and he got to deal with a woman that ain't going to listen to him and is going to talk back. The devil is a liar. I'm not praying for that. That's like me praying and diligently working on my credit score. I got an 800 credit score and I can only afford a limit.
Come on.
The devil is a liar, right? I've been working on my credit score so I can get a brand new car. Not to go to a car lot and they tell me I got to get new tires, rotors, brakes, engine, air conditioning. I'm like, not with an 800 credit score. The devil is a liar. The devil is like. So if you're asking a question of how we're preparing, we pray, we prepare, but also too, like you said, you guys hold the soil, we hold the seed, but a seed is never going to grow. A good seed is never going to grow in a bad environment. So that's why, a seed needs sunlight. It needs to be watered. It needs to be in the right position to grow. So that's where, like I said, we have to be the last generation. And that's why, like you said, I saw your purpose, you saw my purpose, and God aligned us together. Because again, I felt like working with you, this is the last generation. I'm going to do my part at least. This is the last generation of this. I don't talk back. I talk back and don't listen. This is the last hot girl generation. This is the last, we're producing Proverbs women and Ephesians men. That's the goal. No more hot girls, no more, big time ballers and all that garbage. That's garbage, man. That's the culture.
And I'm so glad you said that. Not to cut you off. I'm so glad you said that because I'm so sick of us clapping for that. Like, stop. Why do we clap for depreciating assets? He got a new whip. It's not even worth what he spent when he drove it off the car lot. Can we clap for you building
Right.
an empire? Why are we clapping for foolishness? Like, I'm sick of it. Sick. Like, when I say sick of it, I'm sick of it. I want you to be in a place where you feel safe enough to be transparent about who God's calling you to be. Or, this sounds messed up. I'll press.
Can you hear me?
Go. It's a little echo, but I want to be able to, to grow. I wanted to grow kings that would be great for queens, not your thigh. Not raising kings, not raising summers and all the foolishness. That's not. I'm raising kings that know how to queen because they treated the first queen right. So that's what I'm hoping that people get from that.
Yeah, that's why we have to stay locked in, Lauren, because again, like I said, this has to be the last generation that claps for mediocrity. We're out here celebrating failure. Like, we're out here, people are going to Vegas and going on vacations. What are we celebrating? Toxicness? We're celebrating mediocrity. We got people out here collecting unemployment money and going on vacations and celebrating. You're celebrating using unemployment money to go on vacation? Is that really an accomplishment? I mean, come on. Like, what are we celebrating? We're celebrating toxicness. We're celebrating toxic couples getting back together. Like, oh, nothing can shake or break them. They're toxic.
Yes.
Toxic is toxic. I don't care if it's gasoline or alcohol. It's toxic. But we, as the culture, like I said, that's why our standards we have to remain, our standard has to be Christ in a world that's driven by the culture, and that's a challenge. Because the culture, the challenge is we have to be in the world but not become of it. And that's a huge, huge challenge because everything we're surrounded by is the world. That's what we're surrounded by. So we have to make sure that we keep Christ as the standard. We have to celebrate Christ. There are more people that celebrate mediocrity than celebrate Christ. And the thing about it is sometimes people celebrate mediocrity more than Christians celebrate Christ. And that's what happens sometimes. Like I said, Christians aren't celebrating Christ the way they should. Or only when Christ does something good in our life. We should celebrate Christ for that relationship that did out. Like, thank you, God, for getting me out of that relationship so I can develop the things that you put inside of me.
Yes.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity. Thank you, Father, for allowing me to work on me versus keeping me in a relationship where my seed couldn't grow. I'm planting seeds in bad soil and it can't grow. Now I'm getting frustrated because I'm not seeing no plants come up. I'm planting seeds in bad soil. So God is like, I need to take you out of that situation so you can put your seeds in good soil or sow seeds into yourself so you can grow and be better for who I truly have for you.
Yeah.
He who finds a wife finds a treasure. The woman that you're going to find, you're going to discover the treasure in her, but you cannot do that without discovering me and how I created this woman in my image and how I created her just for you. So again, we have to be mindful of the divide between Christ and the culture. It's a huge, huge divide. We're celebrating mediocrity.
And that's good.
Like you said, we can't focus on what we can't control. We can't control what the culture is doing. We can't, but we can control what we do. Like the Word of God says, as for me and my house, I know what Cardi B is doing. I know what Offset is doing. I know what Gucci Mane. I know what all of them is doing. But as for me and my house, I know what they're doing. I know what the Kardashians are doing. But as for me and my house, I know Rihanna, I know what Diddy are doing, but as for me and my house, this is our standard. The culture's not my standard. And a woman who is driven more by the culture than she is by Christ, that's definitely not the person for me. That's not the person I'm praying for.
No. Chanel said, I hate to say it, but the Most High closed the toxic door and opened a new positive environment for me. Look, I done been there. So look, God for closed doors.
Thanks God for closed doors. So I agree with what you said. Last thing before we get off, the last thing you said about culture and the dysfunctional, you know, culture is like a asset. You know, when you find your value, it's no different than you just buy. Because at some point, them boobs gonna stay, them thighs gonna get tight, that booty gonna droop, and if all you had was this, and the inside was toxic, you're done.
Right.
You're done. Stick fork in you can go to that cemetery. You're done. And that's just it. But I have enjoyed you as always. Thank you guys so much for being with us, for supporting us. Of course, we have just enjoyed ourselves. We enjoy ourselves on this. I can't wait for
this is amazing. Yeah, I haven't had this fun with like a collaboration live in a long time. So this is really good.
So are you saying this was?
Hey, we can have our own Thursday night thing. Yeah, we can make that happen. I feel that these last three conversations have been, edge snatching, heart check in your business type of stuff. So
yeah.
So I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So no, this has been a lot of fun for me. I enjoyed this. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you. Guys, if you want to purchase this week, I dropped the link right there. You can go in and purchase the book. So Payne is on the website. Make sure you're following Talking Speak. He has amazing content, so you can follow him on Facebook. You can also follow him. I love his content. I think he uplifts the point. And that's what he's providing to be. Trying to uplift with, that's the word of the Lord. Yeah. so anyhow, y'all, please share our live next Thursday at 8 o'clock Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. We love you guys on purpose. Good night.
All right, take care. All right, see you, Lauren. Yeah.